Okay, I'm just going to show you the basic operation of a Gledhill GT155 board. That's this particular one. There's also a GD131, I think it is, that does a similar job. The boards can be configured to suit different installations. That's decided by these jumpers here. At the moment this is set on 1, 3 and 4, I think it is. 1, 3 and 4. That's configured for a Boilermate 2000. If you were configuring it for one of the other ones, you'd have to look up the different jumper settings. Jumper 5, by the way, this end one, if you put a jumper on there, it runs through a simple diagnostic routine. I'll show that at the end. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to power this up and then I'll explain what the various bits and bobs are. So if I put some power on, first thing you'll notice is everything flashes. You'll see the display comes on. That's pretty typical initial display. This top bar means that the heating is calling for heat. If I turn the, I've got this switch simulating the thermostat, so if I turn that off, that'll disappear. If I click it back on again, it'll pop back in again. You'll notice at the moment the heating pump, the boiler pump rather, and the boiler are on at the moment. And these two LEDs down here, the bottom two LEDs, 3 and 4, they show that they're on. That means that the boiler should be fired. The boiler pump will be circulating hot water from the boiler through into the heat store, because obviously it's trying to heat that up to get it up to temperature. What happens there is the boiler, as I say, is heating the heat store. This thermocouple here, thermistor, it's actually a digital thermistor, is in the heat store, and that will monitor the temperature in there. This thermistor is the one that's found at the top of the plate heat exchanger. That's the one that converts the heat store hot water into hot water for the taps, etc. The heat exchanger, that is. This one's found at the bottom right hand of the cabinet. It's to do with hot water again, but really it doesn't play that big a part. But you'll see how this works in terms of hot water. I'll try and demonstrate how the boiler reacts, or the board reacts when you turn a hot tap on and it's looking for hot water. That's what this cup of cold water is about here. I'll come to that in a second. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to show you these two switches. Perhaps a bit difficult to see. If I flick this light on, might see a bit better. There's SW1 and SW2. Now obviously with this board you have to be careful because there's mains flying about down here. But these switches, these are on the low voltage side of the circuit, and you can actually press these with your finger. So what I'm going to do, if I press the bottom one, which is SW2 once, you'll notice the display will change. And it actually goes on to a temperature reading there, look. That's the temperature for the heat store when you press it the first time. That's that one. If it shows that means this is faulty, or the wiring is faulty, something in the wiring, something like that. If you press it one more time again, it shows the degree thing moves to the bottom here, and this one it's showing 18. That's the hot water sensor here. This is the one that's at the top of the plate heat exchanger. Okay, and then if I press it one more time, it'll show H. That's this one that's found at the bottom of the cabinet. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the first temperature reading. That's this one, so this is the heat store. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm up this with this hairdryer to simulate the boiler actually putting heat into the system. And I'm going to warm the plate heat exchanger one up as well at the same time. And we'll see that this will start to climb up. There we go, 20. When it gets to the right temperature, about 70 odd degrees, 75 I think it is, the boiler will go out, but the boiler pump will keep running. I'll explain about that in a second. So it's going up now, 34, 36, off we go. Now obviously this is a simulation, because if you were doing this with the boiler, you'd have to wait for it to heat all the water up in the heat store. So 47. What it does when I get it up to about 75 or whatever, and the boiler goes off, I'm going to try and keep it at that temperature for a while, and I'll show you what happens to the boiler pump, because it will keep running initially. I'll explain about that in a second. So that's 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 4, 5, should go off. There we go, it's gone off at 78. So I'm going to just switch this off for a second. I'm going to put this in the tripod. So I've got two hands. There we go. Oops, click that up. Right, so as you can see, the boiler has gone off, but the boiler pump is still running. This is because it will try to take any excess heat out of the boiler so it doesn't trip on overheat. So it'll run for about 3 minutes, I think it is, just to remove any residual heat from the boiler and keep it from tripping out on over temperature. So what I'm doing, I'm just keeping this sensor warm so that after about, as I say, I think it's about 3 minutes, this boiler pump will go off. While we're waiting for that to happen, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simulate, let me just check we can see. Yes, we can. Just come that way a little bit. I'm just going to simulate somebody turning on a hot tap by dipping the plate heat exchanger sensor, or the direct hot water sensor, into some cold water. And you'll see this is the heat exchanger pump light. So if I dip that in there, what will happen is this will start to come on. Now this is what they call, it's modulated. So it actually comes on faster and faster to pump more hot water through the plate heat exchanger to try and heat up the hot water. Obviously this cup's cold water, so it thinks I need to go at full speed. If I take this out now and just put it back on here and warm it up again, you'll see this will slowly ramp down. That's as though you shut the hot tap off and it's warming up the hot water again. So I'll just keep, make sure I keep that. So in a minute when I get this a bit warmer, obviously you can see it's starting to go down now. Yeah, it'll go off, and eventually when it gets back to the hot water temperature again, the heat store temperature roughly, it'll go off altogether. So it's slowly slowing down. And obviously it would do that a little bit quicker because when you turn a hot tap off, the plate heat exchanger gets warm pretty quick. There we go, and that's gone back off again. So I'm still just going to keep this topped up around the 8 yard mark, and you'll see this boiler pump go off in a minute. I'm not going to turn the heating thermostat on because that will reset the timer. So I'm just going to keep this warm about the 8 yard mark. Like I say, this bottom thermistor down here, the one that's at the bottom right hand of the cabinet, it doesn't actually get too involved. It monitors the return water temperature from the hot water, and it only really works if it's coming back really hot, which means that, you know, there's no need for any more heat to be put in the system. But most of the control is done by this, the one that's at the top of the plate heat exchanger. This seems to take forever when you're waiting for it, of course. I'll keep, just trying to keep the temperature up, still on 88 at the minute. So a couple of minutes, it should go off hopefully. Watch pot and all that. There we go. So that means now that it's taking the residual heat out of the boiler. If I was to flick the heating thermostat on now, you'll see the central heating pump light will come on, and the corresponding LED will come on there. You can find the manual for these, by the way, online. It's quite simple. Just search for Gledhill Boilermate or Electromate or whatever, and you can find the appropriate manual. And again, if I switch the central heating off, that'll go off again. Now if I just let the temperature come down, I'll leave the central heating turned on. You'll see the boiler and the boiler pump's kicked in now because the heat store temperature's dropped down a bit, yeah? So if I just cool this down a bit by whacking on it, when it drops to below a critical temperature, you'll notice that the central heating will go off. That's to allow the boiler and the heat from the boiler to concentrate on bringing the heat store temperature back up to normal. Once it reaches a normal level again, the central heating will pop back in. It's just so that it can basically keep up with it. There it goes, gone out, look. But if I warm this up again now, simulating the boiler warming the heat store up, once it gets up to about 75 again, this will kick back into the central heating. There we go, it's back in. Oh, it's actually about 60 odd. But there you go, you'll see, and if I turn that off again. So as I say, that's how the board works basically. I also offer a repair service for these, by the way, the GD and the GT. I'll put my email address on the listing on the YouTube video notes. If you're interested, just drop me an email and I'll discuss the options with you. Cheers. Okay, what I said previously, I'll show you the diagnostic mode of this GT155 board. It's the same on the GD board. It only works with the version 29 and above firmware. So what you do is you put any of the links, it doesn't really matter which one, I've taken number 1 off, and put it on position 5 on the links on the board there, just below the processor. And then when you power the board up, what happens is this, look, I'll show you. First of all, everything flicks on. The display comes up like that, then it starts to change through, it steps through basically. And what will happen is each of the outputs come on one at a time for so many seconds, look, just jumps through, and the LEDs correspond to that. Then the heat exchanger will come on low, the plate heat exchanger light, and then back you go. It comes to this, yeah. So really what it lets you do, it just lets you pulse each output so you can check, see if each pump's working and what have you. Obviously what you don't want to do with these boards if you replace them is have a faulty pump that's going to blow the new board up. So if you've got any problems with these chips here, if these are burnt or fried or anything like this, you need to suspect there's something wrong with your pumps, your various pumps. So that's just something to watch. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. Cheers.